sitting in a sales pitch meeting right now, like being told as an elected official that that's what I have to do. Like, how about we comb through the budget and you can't tell me in a $500 million budget for 95,000 people.
Hold on a minute. Don't go too far. You're saying $500 million is the budget.
Oh, it was over 500 million.
505 million.
505 million. And that includes county stuff though too, right?
No.
Like water treatment?
No, that's St. George City only. That's
St.
not
George City.
county.
Okay.
Yeah. So St. George City only,
So-
about 95,000 people.
What's the biggest line item in that?
So biggest things are capital expenditures. So big projects like the new city hall that's going to be built.
Oh, I'm sorry. You should bleep that out. The new bleep.
Right.
You should probably bleep out the new city hall that they're spending money on. That was a big one. How much is that one?
Right. That one. I should have brought the last year's budget to have right in front of me,
500
but
million.
I feel like it's no. That was the entire budget. I think it's like 80 million or somewhere in that.
Well,
in that
I'm
range.
still flabbergasted. I thought it was 300. Truthfully, like, guys, I didn't even look it
And
up. I wanted to come into this not knowing about
and
the
this
budget.
is last year's. We haven't seen this year's yet. This year's is going to be coming up in the next couple of weeks. So this is, I'm talking
The
last
budget
year.
for 2023 has not been settled?
Well, this
24.
was, 2023, 2024 has not been settled.
Got
so
it.
this is 2022, 2023 that I'm talking now.
Got it.
And so you compare that to Provo, who actually has higher population. They have very similar amenities, because the story you're going to hear from people advocating for increase in taxes are, oh, but St. George is unique because we have an airport, we have a water treatment plant. You know, we have to have a bigger budget. Well, Provo has those things too. They have more population, and they were almost $200 million less than our budget.
Michelle,
Who said
maybe you
what?
can maybe
Mallory's like, what?
So I was chatting with a couple of different people. One of them had worked in as a city staffer, and he had mentioned that part of the reason behind that is because cities like Provo, Pleasant Grove, American Fork, cities like that can collaborate on fire truck purchases and police car purchases, and they can share in their water treatment plant facility
Because the
expenditures
metro-
and stuff like that, because you've got the cities that are right next to each other.
Are
And
beefy.
we don't have that, and so we've got to spend our own money to do that. Can you talk about that at all, or is that true, or is that false? What are your thoughts
So
on that?
I know that we have the same purchasing agreements. I mean, it's if you're purchasing government entity like fire trucks and police cars, I am told anyway when I've asked about that, like, hey, is there some type of a bulk deal, right? Like, can we combine this? And I'm told that we already do that. That's the feedback I've had from city staff is, yes, we
maybe-
already do that.
Maybe because those cities, you know, the adjoining cities, when you look at the budgets of everybody else,
Right.
like what's Washington's budget? Do you have any idea?
I can't remember what Washington's was
Jeff, maybe you could
last
pull
year,
that up.
but
But I'm
their,
curious, like, the
their
different cities alone.
population is a lot smaller than ours too.
Right.
And I'm not trying to say that a
So-
lot of the things in the budget aren't justified, but what I am trying to say,
$80 million for a new
is that
city
it
hall is not
comes-
acceptable. We should probably not do that, everybody.
what I'm trying to
that's what I
say
think.
is we have to prioritize. If you're going to come out and I'm going to say, I have to raise your taxes as your representative in order to properly fund public safety. I feel the obligation and responsibility that I have better have combed through every single line item and made sure every single dollar that's being spent is justified, because it comes back to that proper role of government, right? To protect and provide, or not provide, but protect life, liberty, property of the citizens.
Right.
So if I'm going to come and take money out of your pocket, it better be for one of those reasons. And public safety is like the top on the list, right?
Yeah,
like
I'm
they're
pretty
the
sure
ones
that's-
out there protecting our life, liberty, and property.
We need food, water, shelter,
Right.
protection. I think that's it.
Yes.
I don't think we need anything else.
Right. Exactly.
Washington City budget, according to WashingtonCity.org, $120 million.
120. So a fifth. So my point is that there potentially is some, I bet you there's some sharing in equipment, and so your overall budget isn't as big, but we're talking $300 million difference between Provo and St. George. Is that right?
It wasn't 300. I think it was just the last numbers I
Provo's
had
budget
looked at. It was,
$300 million.
oh, so then it was over 200 million.
So
yeah,
over
I was going to
200
say the
million.
last I looked, it was like 180 million. So yeah, we're 200 million then.
So then, you know, looking at those line item budget, pieces and saying, okay, is this worth it?
Yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong about the city hall. Maybe I have no idea the inner workings and like the sessions, and we need more offices to do these other
I think
things.
we do need a new city hall. As far as we certainly need more space. I mean, right now, if you tour through city hall, like there's people with offices and closets.
I have an office closet.
Like it's pretty, people on top of each other. So I get, and even our city council meetings, when we do have those meetings that people show up, not everyone can fit in there. So I do think like if we can,
not everybody should be allowed in city council meetings. Okay?
Depending on.
Ma'am, you are not, the elected officials are not having transsexuals running around the streets. There's no plot against the city, right? She comes up there.
Michelle, you remember the lady that stood up in the, not the last city council, but I think it was the one before. And she said, I heard a rumor that there's a city council person and the mayor collaborating to make St. George the drag queen hub.
I think she said Danielle Larkin, right? I think she said Larkin's
Danielle.
name.
Yep, Danielle and the mayor.
Oh my gosh. It's hilarious. It's hilarious, but ma'am, please don't show up to the city council.
That quote actually got quoted in the Salt Lake Tribune too. It kind of made me.
You want to know what? That's a plant. Jeff and I have a theory. Maybe there's plants out there that they're like, "Hey, I'll pay you $50 to go say this thing at city council." I don't know, like stuff like that though. That's not productive. It's not productive dialogue in a city council. So maybe the chamber should be small. Do you really want 200,000 people in there?
So my counter to that though, because there are, if you talk to probably most elected officials, they will totally agree with you. But I am passionate that I do feel like I want people to have easy access to us. Like I want people to feel like their voices can be heard.
Fair enough.
I don't agree with probably a vast majority of the comments that are made.
That should be done.
But yeah, and I can see certainly the argument on both sides, but them being able to come and give public comment, it puts it on an official public record. I think from the perception of the community, like I'm just thinking myself as a citizen, if I had a major issue, I mean, yes, I can email or call and those things, which are important too. But there is something to be said to being able to like record it, get it on public record that I brought this issue
and I believe this
to the council,
right.
and maybe it resonates with others that wouldn't have heard it otherwise through a private email or a phone call, right?
Right.
So I tend to side with like I want the community to be able to have that voice, even if it ends up being some days a total waste of time. Even when like 90% of the people getting up there are comments directed at me that they hate me and whatever, that's not productive. Like, that's fine. You got that right to do that. Make your voice heard.
So currently on the budget outside of the city hall, because clearly you think we should get a new city hall, which I think is a good conversation.
But
later.
I will say with that though, I have made very clear in the meetings on city hall that I have tried my best to make sure we're not doing all these extras, because I will tell you there's other people like, oh, we need to have a coffee shop. I'm like, what? We don't need to have a coffee shop.
Listen, this would be the only way I would concede and lay down my sword for the city is if they bought it from a private entity and they leased it from the private entity, and a private business that's selected anonymously if need be, right? That there's bids for it to be purchased and have the public property stop growing. We don't need to own any more real estate as the city of St. George.
Thank you.
So if their city hall is owned by a private organization, then you could go to a bunch of private individuals and be like, hey, what do you think would be a good business strategy to put in a greater city hall mall, right? Where it's like not just city hall, it's city hall and a bunch of other businesses that facilitate the public professionals that want to be there and are going to have lunch around that area. Maybe they want coffee. We have creamsicles and sodas and all kinds of stuff.
And
so
then maybe the city hall would be profitable and could
send
some of that money back to us.
Exactly. And the idea though that the public, government is going to run the ownership and landlord of that property. Yeah. They're not going to do as good of a job as
creating
private.
Jobs. Talk about creating jobs.
Creating jobs, like the whole thing. So that's where I'm like, okay, if you want a new city hall, then you got to sell the land. Stop owning land because there's squares. Somebody told me that the city owns land right now and they wanted to make it as part of the community trust for affordable housing. St. George told them we don't have any property to give to a community land trust.
What about that square on Tonnequint that the city owns?
I know of hundreds of parts
I would like to know about, because I haven't heard that conversation.
Perfect.
But the city owns way too much.
Good to know.
Absolutely.
They own too much.
I am 100% against city competing with the private sector. Like, we should not be involving ourselves in private businesses. I get a lot of flack because I don't think we should, even in golf, I get a lot of pushback for that, which I get it. They've been purchased. They're there.
Wait a minute.
The city of St. George owns 4 golf courses.
What's the profit and loss statement on that? Do you know that off the top of your head?
So when I first got in, I looked over the previous 5 years.
The segue is so, I'm excited. I'm so excited.
And there's not like it very bit because they will try to feed you the narrative of, oh, golf is so profitable. When I looked back over the last 5 years, if I wanted to be like generous, I would say we broke even, because the prior years before that, I mean, it was in the hole, in the hole, in the hole. And then we had through COVID some good years that, you know, kind of put us ahead a little bit. I mean, I'm talking like $50,000.
Oh my gosh. Not even, she couldn't even quote a profit margin as a percentage. It was so small, it was in the dollars.
Right. And so, that's where I get a lot of pushback. I'm not saying golf isn't great. Golf is great. I get it. The economic impact, I get it. But at the end of the day, we are still competing with the private sector.
If it's not making any money, it's not contributing to the economic development.
Yeah, we're with you on that. But they will argue, though, the secondary of people come to this area to golf and they stay in our hotels and they eat at our restaurants because it's a golf destination.
That's a subsidized
Amen.
tourism feature
Amen.
that Black Desert is crushing and doing a better job out anyway.
Amen. Think of all the and that's my argument as well, is like, look at all these private courses, and there's companies who specialize in coming in and taking over private companies.
They own 4. You're telling me they have 4. So
yes.
there's the Red Hills.
Yep. There's St. George. Sunbrook.
Southgate.
Sunbrook. Oh my gosh. I didn't know Sunbrook was owned by the city. And Southgate.
Mm-hmm.